evening. It is Friday, the 10th of August, 2018. Welcome to the Hot 7 Nightly News. My name is Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. St. Lucia has taken a significant step in its efforts towards sustainable development through renewable energy. The island now has its first utility-scale renewable energy project, which is funded, owned and operated by Lucelec. Its nearly 15,000 panels will generate approximately 7 million kilowatts of electricity per year. More in this report from Solange Alfred.
The 42nd U.S. President Bill Clinton on Thursday 9th, 2018 visited St. Lucia to launch the 3-megawatt solar farm in Latuni Vieux Fort. Host Lucelec launched a $20 million project. The nearly 15,000 panels will generate about 7 million kilowatts of electricity. Managing Director Trevor Louisi sees this step as a milestone in the development of electricity for our small island, St. Lucia.
As we officially open the first utility-scale renewable energy system in St. Lucia, we are adding another page, another chapter in the history of Lucelec, in the history of power generation, and in the history of St. Lucia.
Construction of the solar farm began in November 2017 and is said to meet about 5% of St. Lucia's electricity demand. The 3 megawatts solar farm will reduce the volume of fuel purchase by 300,000 gallons per year. Rocky Mountain Institute Board of Trustee member Jose Maria Figueres showered praises on the St. Lucia Labour Party and the United Workers' Party for the integration of renewable energy since the project gained approval in the National Energy Policy in 2010.
What a wonderful lesson from St. Lucia for the rest of the world that lives in democracy to have two prime ministers, the prime minister, the former prime minister, from two different political sides of life, side by side, speaking on the same podium, participating in the same activity, supported by their both governments, that brings development to St. Lucia. That is the type of democracy the world needs.
Minister for Infrastructure, Ports, Energy and Labour, Stephenson King, looks to a brighter future for St. Lucia with the integration of renewable energies. The minister notes that this step will bring the island closer to achieving its goal of reducing our dependence on imported fossil fuel.
The determination of not only the government and Lucelec to achieving the recommendations of the NETs, the commitments to the Paris Agreement, and the International Development Agenda 2015-2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, but more importantly, the desire and resolve of our people to meeting and overcoming the challenges that are before us through collective effort.
The solar farm builds on the work that Lucelec had ongoing with grid-tied rooftop solar PV systems since 2009. Parliamentary Representative for Vieux Fort South, Dr. Kenny Anthony, highlighted the arduous path that was taken to ensure that this solar farm initiative came into fruition.
We are seeing the coming to fruition of one of the elements of the ambitious energy program that we set in 2011, and for this I am very pleased. I am glad, President Clinton, that you are here with us today so I can thank you in person. Apart from the Clinton Climate Initiative, I also thank the Carbon War Room, Rocky Mountain Institute, and Lucelec for their commitment and perseverance with this project. I also want to thank those who worked hard to get this journey started and lay the foundation that has brought us to this point.
Prime Minister Alan Shastney showered immense gratitude on Lucelec, Rocky Mountain Institute, and the Clinton Foundation for the integral part they played in ensuring that the development of electricity in St. Lucia is moving in the right direction of becoming more sustainable.
In order for us to be able to move forward and to solve this major crisis that we have, and clearly being here today is an effort on our part to be able to reduce emissions, to be more responsible citizens, and at the same time to economically make ourselves less dependent on fossil fuels. But climate change, or the environment, global warming, is having a devastating effect on us. And we're not going to resolve that problem by ourselves.
42nd President Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation has helped generate over 63,000 megawatts of clean energy annually in the Caribbean and East African islands, and calls for the protection of clean energy.
I think this should be seen as the beginning of a comprehensive, determined, unrelenting effort to make St. Lucia and all the island nations of the Caribbean stronger, safer, and more sustainable.
The president also implored that governments, NGOs, businesses, and individuals help improve global wellness by addressing climate change.
We live in an interdependent world. Nobody caused climate change alone. Nobody is raising the sea levels alone, and no one will fix it alone. The same is true of global poverty and of all the rising conflicts. The truth is that the future lies in what I would call inclusive nationalism. Be proud of who you are and where you're from and what your roots are, and still know that diverse groups make better decisions than totally homogenous ones.
Prime Minister Alan Shastney, Governor General H.E. Sir Neville Snack, Minister for Energy Stephenson King, and former U.S. President Bill Clinton, along with Lucelec officials, participated in the ribbon cutting to signal the opening of the solar farm. Reporting for Hot 7 Nightly News, I am Solange Alfred.
Thank you very much, Solange. The acting chief education officer is offering apologies to parents and seeking to reassure them that a contingency plan is in place for grade 6 students whose math textbooks have yet to arrive on island. The details in this report from Rochelle Gonzalez.
Grade 6 students across the island will be returning to school come the 3rd of September 2018, but will be doing so without their math textbooks. Many parents have been out and about, securing all needed school supplies ahead of recommencement of school, and were frustrated with being told by bookstores that the books would be arriving soon without actually arriving by their next bookstore visit. On Thursday, official word came from the ministry that the books would not be available by the reopening of school. Acting Chief Education Officer Rufina Charles says the situation is regrettably out of the ministry's hands and occurred through no fault of the ministry.
We placed our order with the publishers as far back as March because we were very concerned and we wanted all books to be on time. We sent out our book list to the booksellers in April so that everything was in order. However, we had a slight delay with the publishers of the mathematics text for grades 5 and 6. The others are available, but 5 and 6 is delayed because there was supposed to have been a reprinting of those texts. These texts are already local texts. We own those texts. And the publishers from the UK are responsible for publishing them. However, within the department, there seemed to have been some miscommunication, and so our order found itself pushed way back. We are very distraught about this because it defeats the purpose of what we had done and all the preparation we had done earlier to avoid situations like this.
However, the acting chief is seeking to assure parents that there is a contingency plan in place to ensure that teachers and students will not be held back with their math classes.
Our students should not be disadvantaged in any form, and we have requested from the publishers the first 2 chapters of those texts. Right. So that our students would be able to start instruction in mathematics on time. So we are expecting this by the end of next week in a PDF form so that the teachers would have that available to them, both the teachers' manual and the students' text, so that whatever worksheets are required for mathematics instruction would be available to the students.
The ministry is offering apologies to parents and says the gravity of the situation is not lost on them.
We are particularly unhappy about this because this is our grades 5 and 6, and it's a crucial, very crucial grade level because of our national assessment. We are expecting by the end of September everything being equal according to the communications we had with our publishers, that those books would be in the local bookstores by the end of September. We are in constant communication with them, getting daily updates in terms of printing and reprinting and shipping. And so we are hoping for the best that this would be settled by the end of September.
As for the controversial topic of the need or lack thereof for the revision of textbooks, Charles says there is no way of getting around it as information changes, and so content and strategies change and are therefore reflected in the books. In the case of the math text, she says there are significant changes in the two textbooks. Reporting for Hot 7 Nightly News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
In other news, consultant nephrologist Dr. Merle Clark says she simply must set the record straight on the recent death of a dialysis patient. The matter has become media fodder, with both the opposition and the Medical and Dental Association weighing in and insisting that the location of the dialysis unit factored into the cause of the patient's death. Dr. Clark has vehemently opposed such reasoning.
The patient did not die because he was at the Owen King EU Hospital. Those were the impassioned words of consultant nephrologist Dr. Merle Clark as she spoke about the death of one of her patients in light of the national attention it has been receiving. The patient's death has been offered up as an example of why the dialysis unit should not have been moved to the Owen King Hospital, given that the hospital's other services and departments are not fully operational. Dr. Clark says this is an inaccurate picture of the situation.
The patient did pass away. I pronounced the patient dead at the Victoria Hospital on Friday the 3rd at about 4 p.m. The details as to what transpired, I really can't say. I can't speak of patient confidentiality issues. We have spoken with the relatives as to the findings of the post-mortem examination, which was completed yesterday. The talk has really been, or the implication has been, that the patient died because he was at the OKEU dialysis unit. And had he not been there, had he been at, say, our old unit at Victoria Hospital, he would have survived. I would like to say and clarify that that is categorically false. Based on the findings of the postmortem and just what we know that we did, because everything that should have been done was done when that patient went into cardiopulmonary arrest, which can happen, not only in dialysis patients, but in any patient.
It has been argued that the move by the government to have the unit as a standalone at the OKEU was foolhardy and against the advice of the medical professionals. Dr. Clark says she and her team have been highly and specially trained to deal with renal patients. A skilled team, she argues, can and does function as a standalone unit all across the world.
There is no question that a dialysis unit can stand alone. I venture to say that worldwide there are probably more standalone dialysis units than dialysis units in hospital. Jamaica has them, Barbados has them. In the US, for example, the main DaVita runs most of the dialysis units. 90% of their over 3,000 units are actually standalone units. So the idea that a unit cannot stand alone is false, categorically.
She adds that she would never put her patients at risk by being part of a transfer where patients' lives would be at risk. She makes it clear that, in her professional opinion, the move from Victoria Hospital was very much needed.
I was very happy with the move, quite frankly, because our conditions over at Victoria Hospital really were not the best. Our unit there, certainly not in the best of conditions. Our machines were breaking down very often. A lot of the time, generally, we were working with 9 out of our 11 machines, 8 of our 11 machines. So they were way past their time. So we were actually, and I believe if you interview any patient, any nurse, any of the other 3 physicians that I work with on the renal unit, they would attest to that we are a lot more comfortable. The patients are more comfortable. There's a lot less cramping happening with the new machines.
Dr. Clark is urging that the family of the patients be allowed to grieve. She says the renal community is also grieving the death of their loved patients. Reporting for Hot 7 Nightly News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Rochelle. You're watching the Hot 7 Nightly News.